Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla, let's go over the market, let's figure out what is happening to Tesla today and what we can expect moving into, well, the rest of the weekend, and probably more importantly, earnings coming up in just about over half an hour. I'm recording this video in advance because again, earnings is coming out. I want to be ready for it. Just in case we do a dump, I will be ready to buy that dip. But with that being said and done, let's jump into it. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership section is live. That link is down below for just $3 a month. In the description of the video, you can access all my intraday thoughts, posts, updates, etc. on YouTube. It's a YouTube membership, so definitely check it out if you're interested for these kind of posts daily. So yeah, let's just jump into a Tesla closing. Well, looks like it'll be closing around, we'll say, 1% down on the day, closing at about $249 per share. I almost said per se. Per share compared to the market, obviously, a little bit of an underperformance, but nothing too crazy. But for the most part, a pretty sideways day. Now, the thing that's probably the most important that happened today is the fact that we did, like I said yesterday, break out of this, 1 hour little bullish wedge, you can argue, right? But what we did this morning was, we danced actually around it for quite some time. I actually shared it with my members somewhere down here. See if I can quickly find those screenshots so you can kind of see what it looked like in the morning. You can see these screenshots right here, right? I'll just open this up. This is kind of what it looked like in the morning. We were dancing around like that, right? And then we were kind of, coming back down to retest that, and and we were kind of holding for quite some time, right? But obviously, ultimately, we ended up breaking back down below as the stochastic on the 1 hour did cross bearish, and that, of course, the momentum just really wasn't there anymore, and we ended up falling back into the wedge. Now, obviously, that's a little bit concerning because, well, breaking back into such a wedge is not good, right? That shows some bearish signs. So we'll see. I mean, so far we look like we might be barely closing out, but the thing is, it's just, again, kind of like yesterday, it's just so close to the line. And I keep in mind, my line isn't drawn to absolute utmost perfection, right? It's just a rough, demonstration, I guess, right? Especially with something like earnings coming around, it really doesn't matter. Like if we just close just barely above it, barely below it, like, whatever, it doesn't matter. Earnings is around the corner. The implied move is about 8%, if I'm not mistaken. Let me go ahead and open this options chain thingy here, right? This should show the implied move. You can see here, right? So implied volatility is very high. Expected move is about 8 to 9% on Tesla. So pretty much up to about $270 to as low as $226. That's currently the implied move. Doesn't mean it has to move that much on earnings. It could move up just a couple of percent, right? That's called IV crush. That is a possibility as well. But the market currently is pricing in a move of about 8 to 9%. Again, doesn't mean it has to move that much at all. So we'll see how it actually happens. But again, the main thing today to look out for is the fact that, we are going sideways, right? We are still going sideways. We did kind of break back down below, then we're kind of breaking back out, just now, seemingly, towards the close here. So it really just comes down to earnings. Like I know that it is what it is. Earnings is a massive catalyst, right? With such a potential large move coming up, all the way up to these levels here, or all the way down to these levels down here, right? The earnings can dictate quite a bit as to what happens next. But ultimately, the way I look at it is pretty simple, right? Regardless of what happens next, I personally believe Tesla will still rally, right? And the question is, well, does it just rally from earnings right here? Maybe come back up here, maybe even set a double top like this potentially. That could be a possibility, and then maybe we get pretty bearish. That is a possibility, right? Or do we just break above? Do we get that earnings, crash first and then we rally back above, right? Which one happens first? I think that's the main question. But ultimately, whichever the path we take midterm, not necessarily, a month or two out, but like at least a few months out, right? Probably the way I look at it is this, right? As we head closer to September, I'm bearish into September, like second half of August, and especially pretty much around September, October, that general period, especially on an election year, I'm bearish, right? I'm definitely bearish. I think the markets will be very, very scary. There'll be a lot of fear in the markets, right? A lot of uncertainty in the markets, and September is just historically probably, I think, literally the worst month for markets in general. So I'll be pretty bearish for that. It's just a matter of, what happens before that. Do we come back down, then go up, and then maybe go back down even lower? Do we just go straight up, post earnings and then maybe head lower? Do we just, completely rock it? Obviously, we need to see earnings, right? That'll dictate quite a bit, in my opinion. For instance, right, let's just talk about the possibilities. If earnings happens to go really, really well, and we somehow actually end up going higher than this high of 270, that's really bullish, in my opinion. That's really bullish, and I think we'll move up even higher ultimately. The other option is the fact that we pretty much come up to about 270. We don't go much higher than that at all, and we start arguably setting in a double top, right? And obviously, moving up to 270 is going to be about an 8% move, which is what the market's pricing in as of right now. That could be a double top scenario, which could be bearish, right? So for instance, we could, oh my goodness, what is going on? We can do something like this, right? Go up for the double top, and then, maybe go sideways for a little bit, right? Maybe for the most of August, and then somewhere towards the end of August, we start, going back down. September comes in, it's a bearish month, and we start, correcting. That is also a very real possibility. So we'll see how that plays out, and then we'll see what earnings actually dictates for us, right? But again, I'm bearish pretty much around September, give or take, right? late August to pretty much October, I'm bearish. Now, if earnings happens to be, the sell the news kind of event, which it can be because Tesla's obviously, had a beautiful run up so far into earnings, right? I think what will happen roughly is we'll come back down, right? I think we'll crash. I think we'll come down somewhere to around these 220s-ish levels, right? 220s, 210s. And I think it'll get bought up pretty quickly. And then I think we'll make our way back up to at least about 270, probably sometime in August before, again, those bearish theses come in. Thesis comes in, right? With, September, October, election year, right? Election months really coming in. And I think from there, we'll regardless come back down as well. So that's kind of the overall trajectory I see. But again, after this whole September thing plays out, after the whole October thing plays out, I ultimately think we'll go up even higher. Now, let's talk about the actual technicals, right? That's just me kind of projecting into the future, right? That's just me kind of, trying to look at a crystal ball, but looking strictly at the technicals, right? Obviously, we have an arguable breakout still, right? Not, again, the most convincing close, at least so far, even though we haven't closed yet, right? We're still kind of dancing around the lines, not really showing a direction here, right? Going kind of sideways for the majority of the day on, fairly low volume, to be completely honest. But the thing that's kind of concerning is the fact that, despite these moves, yesterday and even today, we're still technically, we're not going too much lower, especially relative to how much higher we went yesterday. The MACD is still making lower lows, right? The stochastic is still, looking okay, I guess, right? But, the stochastic, sorry, the RSI, I don't know if I said stochastic up here, I meant RSI, but the stochastic obviously still crossed bearish, right? The green hasn't crossed the red, so the momentum is still not there, right? You have the BX trender over here, still also kind of like the MACD making lower lows. So the momentum for Tesla, in my opinion, is still not very high, right? I honestly think a drop is a bit more likely than a fall or than a rise. But I'm positioned both ways. I did buy today at about 246, right? So I did buy. I am holding some shares less than I would normally hold, but I do have essentially upside exposure just in case with sold covered calls because, obviously there's a chance we rally. I think it's like a 30% chance we rally and like a 70% chance we go down, maybe or maybe closer to like a 40-60, right? But, I am ready to buy the dip if we do crash, right? But again, the momentum is just not there right now, right? I'm not seeing the momentum. I'm not seeing that bullishness really from Tesla right now. The stock itself or the indicators are not telling me anything like that right now, right? We're still technically in slightly overbought territories on the band's regression. We're not quite there, but we're not, the stock hasn't actually reset yet, right? Hasn't truly reset ever since this euphoric rally, right? And a true reset would be coming back down to pretty much around the mid 230s again, right? That would be an actual reset. But again, I want to make it very clear. If at some point, especially if we open up tomorrow below this candle's low, which is pretty much around 233, that's gonna be bearish, right? If we lose this low on this candle printed on July 12th around 233, that is bearish. And I think that will confirm that we're probably coming back down to the bottom of this flag one more time on this potential false breakout, which is also pretty bearish. And that would mean that, we're coming back down to 212, 213, something like that, maybe for the gap fill, but the bottom touch of this bull flag. But I do expect us to bounce from there. And I do expect still potentially a pretty powerful rally moving from there for Tesla, at the very least back up to 270, if not potentially even 280. Then I expect September to, seasonality to kick in because I expect this to happen before September seasonality kicks in. And I expect us to start consolidating, if not bleeding back down as, elections, just really bad seasonality for the market to kick in. We, start potentially correcting a little bit from this nice, beautiful rally. And that's kind of the general way I see it, kind of moving forward, right? So there's still issues here, right? I'm still seeing some slowdown here. I still think the chart itself is looking midterm bullish. I do think the chart midterm looks bullish, but again, short term, I am seeing some, signs of weakening, signs of momentum just slowing down, right? Taking a look at the weekly here, if we do come down to those levels like I mentioned, right? For instance, if we only come down to about, the mid 200s, let's say, or mid 220s right there, that's the red line, right? That'll be just another retest of this red line. We already did that once, pretty much almost to perfection on the linear chart. And, that is a possibility we come back down at the very least to retest this, if not, of course, making our way even lower. But one thing I wouldn't be surprised is this, right? This is what I think will really catch people off guard, personally, just me guessing essentially right now. But on the weekly candle, that kind of, peeks its head below this trend line, right? People are going to start getting bearish. We're breaking below the trend line. That's not good, right? The weekly candles are breaking below the trend line. That's bearish. This could be a false breakout, kind of like what we had before. If you drew these lines in a little bit of a different way, people, kind of start freaking out. But instead, what I expect, we do break below, which will be that 213, 212 level. That'll be somewhere down all the way over here to this white line. It'll look pretty bearish. And then we buy back up and we still close back above the trend line by the end of the week. That's also something I wouldn't be too surprised to see. So we'll see. Again, a lot of guesswork here, right? Again, with something like earnings, I'm not going to pretend like I know what's going to happen. I'm not going to pretend like I have a crystal ball. It's just a matter of wait, position accordingly with your personal risk adjustments, right? Whatever that may be. I have personally done that myself. I am cash heavy, but I do have a position for upside exposure in case we do get that. I think there is a possibility of it. So I am still having some upside exposure, but I definitely have more cash than upside exposure overall. So anyway, that's kind of how I'm seeing it right now. I really wish that this video would have been a little bit more insightful, but you know, again, sometimes with earnings, especially on a stock like Tesla, it is what it is. It is what it is, right? It's a very volatile stock. Earnings, you know, especially with a stock like Tesla, who the hell knows how it's going to happen, whether it's the results themselves that we get at what, 4:05, something like that, p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or the earnings call itself and what Elon decides to say and how the stock reacts to it. There's so many anomalies with the stock and earnings and Elon and whatnot on, you know, such a day. So very hard to predict. So we'll have to just kind of see it, let the stock kind of dictate the movement for us, and we'll get a better picture, in my opinion, hopefully starting tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then probably the day after that, by Thursday. So either way, this week should make things a lot more clearer, right? In terms of options flow, nice little 216 call coming in 400 strike for December 20th this year. Actually, that's pretty bullish. Actually, it's pretty decent to see. But you know, options was kind of all over the place, right? In terms of bearish flow, Tesla is the most bearish confirmed flow for about 10 million. Nothing crazy though. Wouldn't put too much weight into that. Options are kind of all over the place. But you know, this is where sometimes you want to be careful with options, right? This morning we had a 250 when Tesla was at 253.83 this morning, right before we broke down. 1.18 million above the ask call came in, expiring this Friday. Obviously, Tesla is like 10 points. Well, not 10 points. It was almost 10 points below that, but you know, it's like a decent amount, about 7-ish points or so below where this person essentially bought these calls above the ask. Weekly calls as well. They are down quite a bit on it already. There's a chance that, you know, they get IV crushed, especially if Tesla goes down. They're going to get really, really destroyed, right? And if Tesla doesn't go up enough to compensate for how much time they've already lost for today's price action, that could also be bad. So that's why I bring this up, because, you know, I don't always want to follow options blindly. You never really know sometimes with them, right? That's why, you know, you want to take options with a bit of a grain of salt. But nonetheless, that's kind of what I'm seeing. Let's see how earnings develops. Let's see how the stock reacts. But thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully tomorrow and or the day after that, I think it'll be a lot more of a clearer picture. But either way, thanks for watching. See you for the next one. Peace.